Hello, my friends. This is Andy at the Andy Falco Show, coming to you live from California. It is almost 7 o'clock. I hit the button just a few minutes or 1 minute early. Sorry about that. Hey, I just got to come on really quickly. I know I always say really quickly, but really quickly to let you know and to warn you that things are going to get worse before they're going to get better. Unfortunately, as it says in the subtitle of my description, is that if only Biden could have just been a little bit more not dead today, it wouldn't be so bad. But it's because of his incompetence and his dementia that things are about to get worse. There's no doubt in my mind that so many more things are going to be said that are either untrue or leaked and a whole bunch of other stuff. Let me go ahead and get to my sponsors really quick and talk about those very quickly, just so I can get those out of the way. Hey, happycoffee.com. Oh, man, I forgot to turn off this thing. Hold on one second. I'm going to get yelled at if April Roga comes on right now because I got to turn off my autofocus. There. Good. All right. Happy Coffee. Today's happycoffee.com. Oh my gosh. I believe I didn't weigh myself today at the gym, but yesterday I had lost 9 pounds within the last 3 weeks. I want to let you know also, I've been going to the gym for about a week, but I was already on the process of losing weight. Some great products over there at the website. So go ahead and go over there, grab some coffee, grab some Zest. There's a couple other things over there. You can just read on the website which things are. If I were to go into too many details, this show would be 2 hours long because there's so many great things over at today's happycoffee.com. That's the name of my company. I'm representing another company. Go there, check it out, and you'll have all that there to show you what it's all about. All right. And then we have today's CBD oil. That's the CBD product that I promote from Vaseo. It is it is the best, I believe, in my heart, the best CBD product on the market because it also is has liposome technology, which allows the nutrients to get into your body. Most products do not have any delivery system in regard to CBD. Just so you know, the CBD molecule is too large. Our body does not accept it very well. So most of the time you end up peeing out the CBD that you're taking if it doesn't have some type of delivery system. And so that's why Vaseo is one of the top 50 healthcare companies in the world. So give that a shot. And then lastly, we got today's Vaseo.com, which is the same company, except for this is the site you go to for all the other wellness products. You got vitamins, you got Renew, which is a fantastic product for inflammation. And you have Beleza, which is great for your skin. I did a video on that the other day. If you haven't seen that, just scroll around until you find it. It's usually going to be down on the page that you're watching this on, and it'll be there. I talked about Beleza, and there's a video on that describes more of it. All right, so let's get back to the show here. And man, if you watch that, how do you can't even call it a press conference. I mean, that is a lie, right? The Democrat voters, they just know they're being lied to and they're accepting it, and it's okay with them for some odd reason. At some point, they're going to have to just go, I can't live this. I can't live a lie. Everything's been a lie. The Russia collusion, the Ukraine stuff, Adam Schiff lies as he's testifying or whatever he's doing, talking about these things. You got the press that lies. It's just a constant just shenanigans, right? At some point, you would think some of the voters, and I separate the voters from the politicians. The politicians are corrupt, nasty human beings. They're no longer Americans that belong on our soil. Many of them could possibly be arrested. I'm hoping that many of them will be arrested over the next couple of years as things start to come out. But you got this guy, right? This guy named Joe Biden, who's done nothing for 40 or 50 years that he's been in politics, and it literally has done nothing. Really, everything. He's been on the wrong side of every bill, every policy, and it has been moronic, right? And he's allowed his kids to make money off of him being vice president or a senator. And nobody even seems to care on the Democratic side. All right, so you can get all caught up in all the stuff, and I know many of our politicians, the conservatives and Republicans, have gotten caught up, and they are letting some other things kind of go by that they shouldn't go by. There's this balance that you have to have when you're investigating all these years of being lied to, and now it's finally coming about. There's other things that are happening that also need the attention, and that is the election coming up and some other stuff that's happening. And so then you have this guy, that's being promoted as the nominee for the Democratic Party, which we all know that is not necessarily true. He may get elected, but we know that he's not really going to be the president of the United States. It's impossible. It literally is impossible, especially with what was called the press conference, which was not in any way a press conference in any way, that you just got to go, wow, right? At what point is somebody over there in the DNC going to get arrested for senior abuse, right? For elder abuse? When is that going to happen? You cannot keep pushing this guy out there and putting him through what I can't imagine. I was thinking about this yesterday. Hey, Sass, nice to see you. I was thinking about this yesterday is what does he do at night? Does he sleep at night thinking, man, I killed it today? And does his wife, Dr. whatever her name is, I forget, Dr. Biden, does she say, dude, you killed it today, and I'm so proud of how you spoke so eloquently? I mean, what is it that they talk about at the end of the day? I'm so confused, because I want to think that, like, what happens in their life? You ever think that about famous people or something like that? What are they doing at home when they're so stupid, right? When they say so many stupid things, what is there to talk about? Like, oh man, I wonder if they really believe me. Could I? Hey, Amy, nice to see you. It really dumbfounds me. Yes, son, come here, son. Oh my gosh, dude, why do you do this when I'm live? You gotta love kids. Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
You had to have this game right now, right? You had to have my thumbprint to get this game on the iPad. And so that's what I do when I'm at home. All right. And so the reason I titled this, Things Are About to Get Worse and to Stand By, is because this is what happens, right? Whenever something positive happens in the economy, whenever something positive happens in, COVID-19, where Cuomo back in the day when he said, President Trump is fantastic, he gave us everything we needed, and Newsom from California, another moron, says, hey, the president got to say, hey, he's given us everything we've needed. He was like on it like that. When that happens, then something happens, right? Something gets leaked to the press. Something gets said that, President Trump is now cross-dressing and he got caught, and we have photos, and we're going to show them to everybody. Like, some ridiculous thing comes out every time there is like something positive happening on the president's side of things, or the Republican side of things, or the conservative side of things, or on the side of America. When something happens positive in America, the DNC puts something together with the LA Times, the New York Times, or the Washington Post that just is like horrendous. Like, this is the worst thing. So you got this Russian thing, right? You got this where they had a bounty for American soldiers, and it's just like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that's ever happened, and Trump possibly knew about it. And if he did, why is he even talking? Like, this is the most really. You didn't know that the Russians are our enemy. Nobody knew that, but you're just claiming this now, or I don't even know what it is that you're trying to say. We know that Russia is one of our biggest enemies. We know that they're a threat. That's why he has put sanctions against Russia. That's why he gave the Ukrainians a bunch of weapons to protect themselves against Russia. That's why we have spies watching Russia. That's why. What are you talking about? Why is this it's a huge thing? Do you know how many, being in law enforcement, and I know that some people can say, hey, Lana, nice to see you. I'd love to have you on here, Lana. Fantastic. I've been seeing some really cool posts that you've had lately. And Mary Lee, nice to see you. And you can see these things happening, right? Like that they have these horrible things, and they're making these claims that suddenly some intelligence that comes through that Russia is our enemy. Yeah. They've always been our enemy. Some of that has come out back in the Obama administration, right? That they are paying for, American heads to be killed. And nobody said, oh my God, this is the most horrible. We know We know the Iranians hate us. We know that North Korea hates us. We know that there's a lot of countries, Syria and a whole bunch of other countries are enemies and are dangerous people. Do we not know that? How is it today? Right? How is it today or yesterday, knowing that Biden was going to come out and do a horrible? They knew ahead of time that Biden was going to do a horrible job today. So what they try to do is they have this stuff come out leaked, right? That, oh my God, Russia wants Americans dead, and they're putting a bounty on their head, and it's possible to. But they knew that Biden was coming out the next day because they knew it was going to happen. He's literally a walking dead presidential nominee who it was miserable. I watched it just because I wanted to be able to do the show and show you, oh my God, it's worse than we thought. And that means because he's worse than we thought, the attacks are going to be worse than we even imagined. They're going to get worse. Corona is going to be the worst thing that ever has landed on this planet and since biblical times, since Eve ate the apple. Things are now about to be really arrested, COVID-19. And like that is really another one of the craziest things that's happening right now. So I'm sorry I'm going on this little rant here, but you just got to know that this was exactly what they expected, the Democrats. And so that's why they had this leak come out, which is totally unfounded. And again, I know what I was going to do. I was going to talk about law enforcement, and being in law enforcement, I've told you between 100 or 200, 300 officers that are on duty in Anaheim at one time, that they're going on 35 calls each a night, right? And whatever the math is for that, somebody do the math. If you have, just say you have 100, let's just round it 100 cops working on duty in the evening, and each of them are getting, just say 30. What is that? 30,000? Yeah, 30,000 calls, right? So 30,000. Do you think? I mean, that's just an example, right? You have the chief of police. He has 100 officers that are on duty responding to calls, 30,000 calls in a night, something like that. I don't know. I'm not great at math. So somebody else do it for me. 30 calls a night, 100 police officers. That's 3,000 calls. All right. So something like that. I'm not a math. This is not a math show. So 3,000 calls. Do you think that we brief the chief on every one of those calls? And many of them are like robberies, shootings, stabbings, carjackings, rapes, child molestations. Do you think in the morning that he gets briefed on every one of those calls that come in? No, he gets briefed on the ones that, that are really, really important for him to understand, because there's going to be some press calling about it, or there may be somebody that's going to contact him in regard to something that, significant, looking for a suspect possibly, or like that. But not all 3,000 calls, no matter how bad they are, does the chief know the next day, the following day, a year from now, 2 years from now, know about every one of those calls. And I know that you're thinking, right? You're thinking, well, this is Russia. How many incidents in the world, and we're talking the world, not just a city like the city of Anaheim, in the world, involve our troops being in harm's way? I heard somebody today, well, we shouldn't be putting troops in harm's way. Isn't that what we do? Every time we send troops somewhere, they're in harm. We send people into harm's way. What is she talking about? This lunatic Democrat woman who was on the TV talking about, oh my God, he purposely put our troops in harm's way. No. I mean, yes, because that's what they do. They know. That's why they go through a boot camp. That's why we give them M16s, and we give them knives, and we give them hand grenades, and we give them all kinds of weapons and tanks and airplanes and bombs, right? That's why we give them all those things, because we know they're going to be in harm's way. And we know that Russia is an enemy. We know that North Korea is an enemy. We know that Iran is an enemy. We know that Afghanistan is an enemy. We know that the Taliban is an enemy. We know that ISIS is an enemy. We know all this stuff. And they got credible things and possibly credible things and not so credible things coming through all of our intelligence organizations, are the DOJ, the CIA, the FBI, right? The DEA. You got hundreds and hundreds of things coming through every day of threats against our country, threats against the president, threats against everybody. Do you think that he has time? That's what we have hundreds of people in our intelligence for, to vet. And for Nancy Pelosi or whoever moron decides that, oh, this is the most horrific thing that they've ever heard in their entire life, that Russia wants American troops killed and paid some money to do it. If they did, we know that they're doing that, right? We already know that that is something that they want. And it is probably being looked at. And we have a number of people that are looking at it. They're in the intelligence bureau that are looking at it and trying to figure out if it's true or not. That takes time. It's like having an investigation. How many times have you heard an investigation into a murder? Very much like this one. This is going to be it's a very similar circumstance here, where you don't give any press, where you don't talk about anything in it because you don't want anything to be screwed up. You don't want the suspect to flee. You don't want him to destroy evidence. You don't want their connections, the people that they're connecting with, maybe colluding with or corresponding with. You don't want to mess that up because that's going to be the thing that links the thing together and makes it real. The fact that the LA Times leaked it and made a story about it, which then caused a whole bunch of uproar. What's the likelihood of the Russians making the contact or the connection or the phone call or the whisper or the passing of the note or putting a note inside the back of a book and putting the book on the library shelf and contact and all that stuff? What is the likelihood of all that happening? Nil, 0, nil. It's not going to happen. That's why we don't tell you shit. That's why you don't need to know. I don't want to know. We shouldn't know what's happening right now if it's not been corroborated or if it's not been connected or it's not been vetted, right? We don't want to know. You don't want us to know. The fact that somebody leaked the New York Times, that person needs to hang. Yes, I said hang. Yes. Where is our spine? Where is our laws? And where I've been talking about this for days, that we have become a bunch of spineless pussies here in the United States. All of us. Nobody's following through with prosecuting people that are leaking out of the White House. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Devin Nunes. I don't care I don't care who it is. Whoever it is that's leaking out of the White House needs to go to jail and they need to be hung tomorrow, because it's causing nothing but chaos in the world for us as Americans, the United States of America. And we're allowing a bunch of people, I want to cuss so bad, because then I see people that I just respect so much, with Carol and Courtney and Mary, and I want to hold my tongue. Lana's on there. I shouldn't say bad words. I'm sorry, but I'm just so freaking, it's so crazy. But they knew, I'm telling you, that they knew what was going to happen with Biden today, and that they needed something to cover up, to be a bigger story than Biden coming out and just being a dead person talking about things that were, it really was a speech that was written back in March, right? Did anybody else watched it? Did you not think, what? Like, almost, I'd say 80% of the speech was something that I think that would have been spoken, like, this is, not knowing anything, not knowing that we needed PPE, not knowing that we didn't have maybe enough masks or we didn't have enough ventilators and that kind of stuff, where when the government went to look and say, hey, this is how much stuff we have, and go, shit, where's all of our stuff? We need more than this, right? Everybody knew that. Trump knew it. Democrats knew it. Cuomo, what an idiot, knew it. Everybody goes like, shoot, we don't have enough, right? Okay, we don't have enough. Sometimes my daughter comes to me and says, hey, Dad, we don't have eggs. I want to make something that needs eggs. All right, we don't have enough. Let's go get it, right? And so it's like that speech was written back when we knew we didn't have enough. He really truly has been in this basement and knows nothing about the 2 ships that were sent out, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, that virtually went unused, that now we have more ventilators than we've ever had in our entire history, and we're actually shipping them out to other countries, that we have more PPE, we have more masks, we have more testing, we have, like, where have you been, dude? Like, what, isn't there somebody writing the speech for him, right? And then, now back to my point. So they know that, right? The DNC knows that, and they had to have the story come out yesterday. They had to come out before. It couldn't come out after. It had to come out before, because you needed this big wave of bad mojo and juju and whatever covering and as a fog, so that when Biden spoke today, it wasn't as bad as it could have been, because it would have been the only thing in the news, right? You got COVID. COVID's been around now for months, and this kind of old news, and they're reusing and hashing this old stupid mask thing and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, right? People are kind of like this, they're numb, right? And so that numbness would not have been enough to guard them from what happened with Biden speaking today. So they had to have this story, which is complete BS, baloney on all ends, And you had Schumer yesterday saying he can't win either way. And we just want you to know that if it's that he didn't know, that's a loss. And if he did know, that's a loss. So now, right, they're telling you how you are supposed to take this news. That no matter how Trump now, so now they're getting a little bit smarter. They're not completely stupid. They are idiots, but they aren't completely stupid. They're now setting it so that they're telling you, Democratic people, is that, okay, so what Trump is, he's going to say that he didn't know, he's going to say that he didn't know. So Schumer yesterday is saying, okay, just so you know, it's bad either way. It's bad if he knew, and it's bad if he didn't know. It didn't know. So there's nothing he can say that will make this better, and completely setting it up so that it completely was this big old fog as Biden came out and spoke today. And so this is just going to be worse, because I think he was worse than even they thought he was going to be. Can you imagine what's going to happen when he is debating and actually ask hard questions? The press asked him nothing, right? It wasn't even the press. And again, I put quotes on an earlier thing. It is not the press. The press did not ask him any questions today. Nobody of substance. They asked him the questions that he knew that he already had the answers for. There was no question like, hey, can you talk a little bit about where's your son still been? We still have not heard with him. What about you being in the Oval Office when Obama said we need to find the right people to investigate Michael Flynn? And you came up with the what's it called? The give it to me. The not emulsions. The the thing that they try to get Mike with. It's going to come up, Mike Flynn. What was the thing? Shoot, that whatever crime they were trying to, that's never been used since the 1700s, something like that, whatever law that was, because Biden's one who came up with it, because he's as old as the 1700s. That's how he knew about it, that law. And nobody asked him about that, right? Nobody asked him to say, hey, what about you being in the White House when they went after Michael Flynn? How am I feeling today? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was their big, hard-hitting question. So, how are you feeling today? That was the huge one. That was the big one. There was a couple that I just laughed at, like, what? What? Why do you wear masks? Well, because Donald Trump doesn't. And I told you yesterday, if Donald Trump came out and started wearing a mask, suddenly it would be like, he's so stupid wearing masks. We don't wear masks anymore. Masks have been found to be harmful to the human body. And it's horrible that he's been telling Americans now that they should wear masks. We've discovered over the last couple of days that masks are horrible and they're killing people, right? That's what's going to happen the next time that if he were to come out and start wearing masks. I would like a debate between Trump and Biden. It will be very interesting. It'll be fun. I will have to have a drinking game. I'll have to have a party. And it will be so stinking fun. Thank you, Courtney, for agreeing. I appreciate that. All right. Let me just talk to you about a couple things that are going on right now. And just as an example of why things are going to get worse, because as I've been telling you about, is that you have these crazy politicians in these different cities like St. Louis, right? Yeah. In St. Louis, you had a pack of wolves going through a private neighborhood where a couple were trying to have dinner, right, in St. Louis. And a mob came through, busted down the gate for the private community, and began walking down their street, threatening them, and threatened to kill them and their kids and their dog. And so he brought out a rifle and said, "All right, let's go, let's rock and roll." And now the DA of St. Louis is she going after the mob? Is she going after the people who threatened and shouted out terrorist threats? Is that who she's going after? No, she's going after the resident who felt threatened, who he said on a interview that I just watched that I thought I was going to die. I saw what they did in St. Louis just a couple days ago, and they shot the Officer Dorn, and left him to die. And here they were now marching down my street. It wasn't about race. There was a bunch of white people, black people, Mexican. It's not about race. It was about this threatening mob was walking down the street of my private community, busted down the gate, and I felt I had to defend myself. And now you have a DA who's not going after the mob, but they're going after the resident and trying to think of any crime that she can charge them with. What the heck is going on? This is what I'm telling you. What Where? What? How? Why? What is going on in our country? Where are the politicians with balls and a spine that will not that are not going after the mayor of Seattle, not going after the governor of Washington, not even going after the chief of police for doing nothing? Where's that chief of police spine in Seattle? Why isn't she got a pair herself and arrested the mayor and then got her troops together and taking back that police station in Seattle? What the hell's going on? And then you have a DA in St. Louis looking for a way to charge the residents who felt threatened by a mob that came into their private community. The guy said, "Hey, I came there," and this is the guy. This is his name, Mike McCloskey, and his wife, Miss McCloskey. You know, they moved from a somewhere outside of St. Louis. I forgot where they said they lived, and they moved it because they wanted to refurbish that old house that you probably seen on TV. It was probably falling apart, and they fixed it up. And it's an old house that is probably has some history in it, which of course that's why they were there, was to destroy it. But they refurbished it with their own money. And what does he do for a living? He is an attorney for people that have bad things that happen to them in relationship to maybe law enforcement and mostly helps underprivileged people. That's what he does for a living. And there's the mob trying to destroy his neighborhood and his house and threatening him and his wife and his dog and his kids. And the DA's now going after him and her. What the hell's going on? Here's another thing. I'm going to show you something here really quick. Let me go ahead and get rid of my lower third here. Pop this off, and I'm going to share my screen. And I want to show you first a contrast to what I just shared with you, and that is in Oklahoma. Oh, I think I may have to move to Oklahoma. Oklahoma. Let's see. Let me actually make this full screen on this side. Hold on. So Oklahoma. Thank God. I read this and I go, oh my God, thank God. I was getting worried. This is from the Daily Wire. And it said, Oklahoma authorities charge alleged rioters with terrorism. Thank God. This is not Seattle, they said. Thank God. An American city with American balls and a spine. Are you kidding me? Sorry, ladies, about my language. Authorities in Oklahoma announced late last week that they were charging alleged rioters with terrorism and assault. Yes, saying that they would not put up with this lawlessness here. Oklahoma County District Attorney David Prater, we need more David Praters in this world, in our United States, reportedly made the decision to get tough on the rioters in an effort to curb any future potential riots. Is that what I said yesterday? Yes, that's what I said yesterday. This is not Seattle, Prater said Friday. We're not putting up with this lawlessness here. The charges, which appear to be for alleged crimes that were committed a couple of weeks ago, also included 5 defendants identified as involved in the painting of murals downtown Oklahoma City this week. The Oklahoman reported. The Oklahoma man, reported they are accused in an incitement to riot charge of interfering with a police sergeant who was trying to take a homicide witness for an interview at police headquarters Tuesday. The ACLU criticized the use of the harshest possible charges against the rioters. Of course they did. Prater defended the charges on Sunday, saying, when you act like a terrorist, you will be treated like a terrorist. Thank God for Oklahoma and that DA. So it can be done. And as I was saying yesterday, I love being right. I've been right so often, and you can clap for me. Thank you. I've been right with so many things. And that's what I was saying yesterday. You have to get it early. You have to get them when they're first beginning their rioting, when they're first beginning their attack, when they're first beginning their looting. You have to go after them quickly and with laws that are strong and is at the highest level, and pile them up like they did against the poor officer in Atlanta who will walk eventually. He will walk, I'm telling you. We, the people, need to protect our homes from all enemies. You are correct. You know, and I bought my guns last week. Was it last week when I picked them up? I picked my guns up last week. I bought them a couple weeks ago, but I picked them up last week. And I was talking to the guy at the gun store, and he's going, because they had to go through the process of checking everything. And he says, man, they are so behind in California. And I said, wow, how far behind? About 4 or 5 days. He goes, they are processing 3 to 7,000 guns. What do you think? In California, 3 to 7,000 what? How many in a day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, a month? Somebody give me an answer. 3 to 7,000. Let's just go in the middle. Let's go with 5,000. Let's say the average is 5,000 guns they're having to process. Do you think that's a day? Do you think that's a week? Do you think that's a month? 5,000 guns on the average in California. A day. Yes. Thank you, Nicole. On the average in California, they're processing 5,000 guns a day. Yes, Carol. Nice. Unbelievable. He goes, on the weekends, it's up to 7,000 guns get processed. They were sold out of guns, and I couldn't get the one I exactly wanted, so I kind of settled for a different one because I just wanted one right away, a semi-automatic shotgun. Oh my God, yes. And it's what else do we have to do? I mean, what else is there when you have DAs like you have in St. Louis, and you have mayors like you have in Washington, in Seattle, and governors like you have in Washington, and you have Lightfoot like you in Chicago, another moron. You got de Blasio in New York. You got Cuomo in New York. You got just inept, spineless, freaking maniacs that could care less, defunding law enforcement, dismantling law enforcement. I talked about Oakland, completely dismantled their school police. You have Minneapolis. They're bound and determined to dismantle their law enforcement. You got de Blasio, completely got rid of an undercover a portion of their police department, 600 people undercover who were keeping the shootings kind of at a level that was not as bad as it could be. And now as soon as you take that up, what do you have? You got a shooting every hour, and you have people dying on a regular basis. You got children dying on a regular basis. And that's why they're selling on an average, not selling, but on an average, they're processing 5,000 guns a day in California. That is why. We should not allow destruction of the beautiful country. Not at all. Not at all. And it needs to start with arrest right away. What do you think about flying right now? I'm fixing to fly to Florida. Well, Florida, I think you're okay. I think you're okay. But yeah, I have a friend who said she was going to be flying here to California, and they're being told not to fly to California. So it just depends on the certain cities. I have to fly to Oregon in a couple weeks. And so I guess I'm going to be finding out how easy, how hard, if it's possible to fly to Oregon. I have to fly because it is my business. And if I don't fly, I am going to continue to be broke. This is killing my business, and I don't really know what to do about it. My business is flying from courthouse to courthouse, testifying in court cases involving law enforcement. Funny enough. Isn't that funny? And so it has to happen. Let me show you one more thing really quick. I'm going to get rid of this one and bring up the other thing that I talked about. I just want to show you this, but this is how crazy, again, this is going to show you first a little bit how crazy the press is, and then, but it'll prove my point again of what I've been saying over the last couple of days. All right. So you got this headline here. I'm not sure what's going to show up. I didn't look before. Oh, of course, that's what's already shown. All right. So here's the title. So the title is the thing that's most important for you to take a look at. Let me go ahead and make this full screen. Oops. Man, I right-clicked instead of, there you go. And so as you look at this title, it says, Trump keeps claiming that the most dangerous cities in America are all run by Democrats. They aren't. And for a second, I go, wait a minute, I've been reading that too. And I have been making the same claim. I'm going, what did I miss? What am I missing? But as you scroll down, it's talking about how the economy hobbled. They use all these words, right? The economy is horrible. The pandemic is horrible. The streets are targeting America's systemic racism that doesn't exist. So you read all this stuff in the very first paragraph, right? The coronavirus, the economy's bad, systemic racism, and President Trump is forced to revise his reelection strategy, and he's talking about how horrible these cities are that are run by Democrats, right? And I just kind of paraphrased it. But then you go to the graphic that they used, and this is the funniest thing. Here's the graphic. All the blue are Democrat-run cities that have the most horrible, violent crime. Where's the red? Oh, there it is, way down here in Jacksonville, Florida. You got one, but every other city is a Democrat-run city with the worst crime levels. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Philadelphia, Memphis, Detroit, Dallas, Phoenix, Baltimore, San Antonio, Las Vegas, Milwaukee, Nashville, Charlotte, Albuquerque. Oh, we got one. We got Florida. We got Jacksonville, Florida. Then we got St. Louis. We got San Francisco, and Cleveland. And that's overall crime. And then per 10,000 residents, what do we? There's no red on this one. There's no red here. It's all Democrat cities. Exactly what I've been trying to tell you, with the highest crime levels per 10,000 residents. Memphis, Tennessee, St. Louis, Missouri, Detroit, Baltimore, Springfield, Missouri, which is independent, Little Rock, Arkansas, Stockton, California, Cleveland, San Bernardino, California, Oakland, California, New Orleans, Albuquerque, South Bend, Indiana, Milwaukee, Rockford, Illinois, Lansing, Michigan, North Las Vegas, Nevada, Wichita, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Houston, right? But you have that one little sliver. And so they try to tell you how wrong Trump is, but yet they put a graphic in that shows, well, is that really showing how wrong he is? And so I go back to my argument. Hey, Democrats, you want the rest of the country to look like those cities because you're moving out of them, right? You have a lot of New York Democrats who voted in these morons that are now have run the city into a place where it's so crime ridden that you can now not. Back in the 70s, I remember how bad crime was in New York, and how you couldn't go on the subway without getting mugged. I mean, the joke was you couldn't go to Central Park, you couldn't go to and get into a subway, you couldn't walk the streets without being mugged. You had to hide your wallet, you couldn't walk out, your house with money, you couldn't do anything, right? And it's going back to that, by the way. And what's happening? You got a bunch of Democrats that voted all these morons in and still waving the flag, Democrat, but yet they're moving to Republican-run states and cities. I really do believe that there needs to be a bill presented in the Senate that says if you are a Democrat and you vote Democrat, then you must stay in that city. You can't leave. You can't move. Right? It should be. But you should be allowed to, if you're a Republican that's getting overrun by morons in the Democrat Party, that you should be able to move to visit your friends in these other red states. But Democrats should not be able to completely ruin a city like Chicago and New York and San Francisco, Los Angeles, Baltimore, completely ruin these cities that were once, some of them decades ago, maybe 100 years ago, were once great cities, and completely ruin them with your decisions to have them be liberal cities. Then you should not be allowed to move. You shouldn't. You're the one who destroyed the city. You're the one who made your bad decisions and did not hold up your end of the bargain as far as being an American and being for lawfulness, not lawlessness. Lawfulness is what America should be all about. You should have a spine. You should have courage. You should have bravery, right? It's in our songs that you also want to remove, because I think that's the part you hate, that it says something about being brave. That that's not in your history if you're a Democrat. I don't know a Democrat who has voted Democrat who has a spine right now, because you know what you're voting for. You're voting for no police. You're voting for no border. You're voting for higher taxes. You're voting for sanctuary cities. You're voting for the destruction of our oil and power industry here, the energy industry. That's what you're voting against. Right? You don't want airlines. You don't want cars. You don't want restriction. You want more restrictions and more taxes, right? And that is BS, right? That is so un-American compared to having a border, compared to dissolving sanctuary city laws, to putting people back in jail, to having laws that are reinforced and enforced, to not having people tear down statues, to not having people rioting and looting and burning down buildings and taking over police stations. That's what Americans are. Those are Americans. Those are people that are Americans who do not want looting. That you have completely are just you're treasonous in the sense that you want lawlessness, and that you support lawlessness, and where you're going to arrest the residents for protecting their house instead of the rioters that came in and threatened them. That is not American. And we have a very serious problem. This is not going to get better. Biden came out today and proved the fact that he is brain dead, and it is only going to get worse. The Democrats will do everything they can to cover up their poor decision making and make everything in the world Trump's fault, and do whatever he does is the opposite, right? If he's for something, there it's going to be. It doesn't matter what it is, right? You got the bill that Tim Scott put out there that gave them everything that the Democrats wanted for the most part, and then said you can have 20 amendments if you want, and they still said no. Why? Because they didn't want to give Trump anything. It's not about Tim Scott. It's not about the Republican Party. It's about whether or not it would make Donald Trump look good. And that's the only thing they're against. Again, un-American. You should be for whatever helps America. You should be for whatever helps us be stronger. You should be for keeping these secrets that are happening in the Intelligence Bureau until they're ready to be known by the world. It was not ready to be known by the world because there wasn't enough vetted information to make sure that we had the right information, you dipwits. So don't be stupid, you moron. Because it's just it's making it dangerous for everybody. You are making it dangerous for our troops who are in harm's way, not everybody else. Oh, that's where you're going to Jacksonville. It's not that bad. Did you see how little the red mark was? It was very tiny. It was on the list. Yeah, it's bad. All right then, my friends. Well, California is one. I believe Washington is another. It's we got to do something. We've been silent for too long, and we need to make some changes. So I'm just warning you, and you can't hunker down and be scared and hide behind your couch or hide behind your bed under your covers. You have to get out. You have to stand up. You have to begin to talk out loud and tell people that you are not going to stand for this stuff, that you need law and order, that they need to begin to arrest people and get a hold. If you live in Seattle, in St. Louis, if you live in Missouri, letting that DA know that, wait a minute, let me just get this straight. If I defend my home, you're going to go after me. If I'm robbed, if I'm attacked in my home, wait a minute, you're going to go after me. When did this happen? When did this become a thing? You need to vote that DA out. You need to have her, whatever you can do, have her fired, whatever can happen with that DA in that particular city, that county, they need to go. But you have to speak up. But the problem is that most conservatives, most Republicans don't speak up because they are fearful. You have to stop being fearful. You have to start being loud, louder than the Democrat. They're loud and obnoxious and pains in the ass, but they will all back down because they're a bunch of wusses and they're spineless. We have to get our spines back. We have to get our balls back, and we have to go back out there and act like our forefathers and be a little bit stronger. And not put up with this crap anymore. All right. Because again, one last time, it's going to get worse. Biden came out today and it's not good. The worse he is, the worse it is for us. There's almost a little bit rooting for him. I said, dude, if you could just at least get through this and maybe ask a couple tough questions, it won't be so bad for us. The worse he is, the worse it's going to be for all of us. I'm just telling you, and the worse is going to be for Trump. I'm just telling you right now. No, don't give up. Rich Moore, damn it. How dare you? All right. We got a couple months. Just work hard for a couple months. Don't be silent, please. All right, my friends. That's it for me. I got to go. Man, I ate too much Hawaiian food. I had Hawaiian food tonight, and I am a little too stuffed. All right, my friends. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Thanks for watching. Please share, subscribe. Thank you for watching on YouTube, Rich. I appreciate that. Make sure and subscribe. If you can send this out to a couple other people, have them subscribe. I would appreciate it very much. Visit my sponsors. At least go to the website. Look for something to order. Try it out. If you don't like it, send it back. All right. I appreciate it. Thanks. Take care. Bye.